What if your depression is not a disease? What if it's not a chemical imbalance, not a broken brain, not something to be medicated away? What if your depression is the most honest part of you, the part that refuses to lie anymore, the part that knows the life you're living is not the life you were meant to live, the part that would rather feel nothing than continue pretending everything is fine? Friedrich Nietzsche understood this. He spent most of his adult life in excruciating physical and psychological pain, migraines that lasted for days, near blindness, nausea so severe he couldn't eat, loneliness so profound he wandered Europe like a ghost, never belonging anywhere, never finding home. And yet he wrote some of the most life-affirming philosophy in human history. He didn't write it despite his suffering. He wrote it because of his suffering. He understood something about depression that modern medicine refuses to acknowledge, that depression might be the soul's way of saying no, no to a meaningless existence, no to a life built on lies, no to values that poison rather than nourish. If you're depressed right now, if you're watching this video from that gray place where nothing matters and nothing helps, I need you to stay with me for the next 20 minutes. Because Nietzsche didn't offer easy comfort. He didn't tell you everything would be okay. He told you something far more valuable, that your depression might be the beginning of becoming who you actually are. This is the dark truth they don't want you to know, and it could change everything. Before we continue, I need to ask you something that might sting. Have you ever considered that your depression is not random, that it's not just bad luck or bad genes, that it might be the perfectly rational response of your deepest self to a life that has gone wrong somewhere, a response to values you've accepted but never believed, a response to a society that tells you to fit in when everything in you screams to break free? Leave a comment if this resonates, because what we're about to explore is not for everyone. It's for those who suspect their darkness has something to teach them. Friedrich Nietzsche was born in 1844 in a small German village. His father was a Lutheran pastor who died when Friedrich was 4 years old, leaving him in a household of pious women. His mother, his sister, his grandmother, 2 aunts. He grew up surrounded by Christianity, by duty, by expectations, by the weight of being the man of the house before he was even a child. He was brilliant from the beginning. At 24, before even completing his doctorate, he was appointed professor of classical philology at the University of Basel. He was the youngest person ever to hold that position. The academic world expected great things from him. But something was wrong. From his teenage years, Nietzsche suffered from debilitating health problems. The headaches came first, then the eye problems that would eventually leave him nearly blind, then the digestive issues, the insomnia, the periods of complete collapse when he could do nothing but lie in a dark room and wait for the pain to pass. Doctors couldn't find a cause. They prescribed rest, diet changes, various treatments. Nothing worked. Nietzsche would have periods of relative health followed by devastating relapses. His entire adult life was shaped by this rhythm of suffering and recovery, suffering and recovery. Was this purely physical, or was something else going on? Here's what I find significant. Nietzsche's worst periods often came when he was living inauthentically, when he was trying to be what others expected, when he was suppressing what he really thought, when he was playing a role that didn't fit him. His health improved dramatically when he broke free, when he abandoned academia, when he stopped caring about what the respectable world thought, when he started writing what he actually believed regardless of consequences. I'm not saying his illnesses were imaginary, they were real and devastating, but I am suggesting what Nietzsche himself came to believe, that the body and soul are not separate, that physical illness can be connected to spiritual crisis, that the body sometimes rebels when the soul is being crushed. How many people with depression have physical symptoms? Fatigue, pain, digestive problems, sleep disturbances, the body shutting down. What if, for some of us, these symptoms are not just chemical imbalances, but signals, the body's way of saying, something is deeply wrong with how you're living? Nietzsche diagnosed the spiritual illness of modern civilization, and his diagnosis explains depression better than any neuroscience textbook. He announced that God was dead, not as a theological claim, but as a cultural observation. The values that had given Western civilization meaning for 2,000 years, the Christian values of humility, self-sacrifice, obedience, the promise of heaven, the comfort of cosmic purpose, these values no longer functioned. People still went through the motions, but they no longer truly believed. The foundation had crumbled, and nothing had replaced it. What happens when meaning collapses? What happens when the values you inherited no longer feel true? What happens when you go through life's motions, career, family, consumption, entertainment, but something inside you knows it's all empty? Depression happens. Nietzsche called it nihilism, the condition of living without genuine values, without real meaning, without authentic purpose. And he saw it coming like a tidal wave. He predicted the 20th century would be catastrophic, that the collapse of meaning would drive people to desperate ideologies, to violence, to self-destruction. He was right. 2 world wars, totalitarian regimes, genocide on an industrial scale, the desperate search for meaning that led people to follow madmen. And now in the 21st century, we have comfort our ancestors couldn't imagine. We have technology that grants us powers like gods. We have freedom from almost every constraint that bound previous generations, and we are more depressed than ever. Depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. Suicide rates climb every year. The developed world is drowning in anxiety, addiction, and despair. Nietzsche would not be surprised. He would say, of course you're depressed. You're living in a world without meaning, and you're pretending not to notice. Let me ask you directly, and I want you to be ruthlessly honest. Do you believe in anything? Not what you say you believe, not what you're supposed to believe. Do you actually, in your depths, believe in anything that gives your life meaning? Do you believe the job you're working matters? Do you believe the success you're chasing is worth chasing? Do you believe the values your culture teaches are true? Do you believe your life has purpose beyond just existing until you die? If you hesitated, if something in you said no or I don't know, then you've touched the root of the problem. And that's actually good news. Because you can't fix what you won't face. If this is hitting something deep in you, if you're starting to see your depression differently, I need you to do something now. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. Not for algorithm games, but because this message needs to reach others who are stuck in the same darkness without understanding why. And what comes next is where Nietzsche's thought becomes genuinely transformative. Nietzsche didn't just diagnose nihilism. He offered a path through it, but it's not an easy path. It's not a path of comfort or reassurance. It's a path that requires tremendous courage. The first step is to recognize what he called slave morality versus master morality. Slave morality, according to Nietzsche, is the morality of the weak, the herd, the masses. It values humility, obedience, self-sacrifice, fitting in, not making waves. It calls the aggressive, the ambitious, the exceptional bad or evil. It is a morality of resentment, born from the powerless to make themselves feel better about their powerlessness. Master morality is the morality of the strong, the creative, the noble. It values excellence, courage, self-affirmation, creating one's own values. It doesn't ask what do others think, but what do I think? It doesn't seek permission, but grants itself permission. Now, before you misunderstand, Nietzsche wasn't promoting cruelty or exploitation. He was pointing out that the values most of us have absorbed without questioning, the values of niceness, fitting in, not standing out, sacrificing ourselves for others' approval, these values might be making us sick. How many depressed people are depressed because they've spent their lives being good in ways that violated their own nature? How many have suppressed their ambitions because ambition isn't nice? How many have hidden their true opinions because they might upset someone? How many have sacrificed their authentic self on the altar of social acceptability? Depression might be the soul's rebellion against a life of self-suppression. The spirit saying, I will not cooperate with my own destruction anymore. This brings us to Nietzsche's concept of the will to power. Again, this is misunderstood. Will to power is not about dominating others. It's about self-overcoming. It's the drive to grow, to expand, to become more than you are, to express your unique nature fully. Every living thing, Nietzsche argued, has this will to power. Trees grow toward light. Animals hunt, explore, play. Humans create, achieve, transform. This is the fundamental drive of life. What happens when this drive is blocked? What happens when you're prevented from growing, from expressing yourself, from becoming what you could be? Depression happens. The will to power, denied its natural expression, turns against itself. Instead of creating, you destroy yourself. Instead of expanding outward, you collapse inward. Instead of living, you merely exist. To ask yourself, where in your life has your will to power been blocked? What have you been prevented from becoming? What creative urges have you suppressed? What ambitions have you abandoned because they weren't practical, weren't safe, weren't what others expected. Your depression might be your blocked life force turned inward because it had nowhere else to go. Second question for you, and this one requires courage. If you knew no one would judge you, if you were completely free from others' expectations, what would you do with your life? Who would you become? What would you create? Now ask yourself, why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you becoming that? The gap between who you are and who you could be, that gap is where depression lives. Nietzsche would say, close the gap or be consumed by it. Nietzsche offered a vision of what it means to live beyond depression, beyond nihilism, beyond the meaninglessness of modern life. He called it the Übermensch, the overman, the one who overcomes. The Übermensch is not a genetic superman or a master race. That's a disgusting distortion of Nietzsche's ideas by people who never understood him. The Übermensch is anyone who has overcome nihilism, anyone who has faced the death of God, the collapse of given meaning, and instead of despairing has created their own meaning, anyone who has said yes to life despite its suffering. This is not easy. It's the hardest thing there is. It means giving up the comfort of believing someone else will tell you how to live. It means accepting full responsibility for your own existence. It means creating values rather than inheriting them. But it's also the only cure for existential depression, the only lasting cure. Pills might stabilize you, therapy might help you cope, but until you face the question of meaning and answer it for yourself, the depression will return. It will always return, because it's not a disease, it's a signal. Nietzsche proposed the ultimate test of a life well lived. He called it eternal recurrence. Imagine, he said, that you will live this exact life again, not a similar life. This exact life, with every joy and every sorrow, every triumph and every failure, every moment of everything repeated eternally. Would you choose it? Would you say yes to it? Would you want it again? Most people, if they're honest, would recoil in horror. Their life is not one they would choose to live even once, let alone eternally. They're enduring their life, waiting for it to get better, hoping the next thing will make them happy. They're not living a life they would embrace eternally. This is why they're depressed. They're living a life that is not worth living by their own deep judgment, and their soul knows it, even when their mind tries to pretend otherwise. Nietzsche's challenge is this: live in such a way that you would willingly live the same life again. Make your life a work of art. Create meaning so profound, so personal, so beautiful, that you would want it eternally. This is not about pleasure. Nietzsche's own life was filled with pain. It's about affirmation, saying yes to life as a whole, including its suffering, because a life without suffering would also be a life without depth, without triumph, without the possibility of overcoming. Let me share Nietzsche's concept of amor fati, love of fate. This might be his most powerful antidote to depression. Amor fati means loving your fate, not just accepting what has happened to you, but actually loving it, all of it, even the worst parts, especially the worst parts, because those parts made you who you are. Nietzsche wrote, "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity, not merely bear what is necessary, still less conceal it, but love it." This sounds impossible. Love my suffering, love my failures, love the things that broke me, but consider the alternative. As long as you resent your past, you're at war with yourself. As long as you wish things had been different, you're divided. As long as you're waiting for the past to change, which it never will, you cannot move forward. Amor fati is not passive acceptance. It's active transformation. It's taking everything that has happened to you and using it, making it fuel for your becoming, transforming your wounds into wisdom. Every depressed person I've known has been at war with their past. They cannot forgive themselves or others. They cannot accept what happened. They are stuck in regret, resentment, the endless recycling of pain. Amor fati is the way out, not because it makes the past okay, but because it stops the war. It lets you use your suffering instead of being used by it. Third question, and this is the hardest: can you find a way to love your fate, including your depression, including everything that led to it? Can you see it not as something that happened to you, but as something that is shaping you into who you need to become? Write your thoughts in the comments, because wrestling with this question is the beginning of transformation. Let me address something important. I'm not saying medication is wrong. I'm not saying therapy is useless. I'm not saying you should just think your way out of depression. Clinical depression is real. Neurochemistry matters. Sometimes medication saves lives. But I am saying that medication and conventional approaches often treat only symptoms. They might lift you out of the pit, but they don't answer the question that put you there. They might restore function, but they don't provide meaning. Nietzsche offers something that medication cannot, a framework for understanding why life feels meaningless and how to create meaning for yourself. This is not instead of medical treatment, it's alongside it. It's the spiritual component that modern medicine ignores. So what does Nietzsche's approach look like practically? How do you apply his ideas to actual depression? First, stop pretending. If your life feels meaningless, admit it. If your values feel hollow, acknowledge it. If you've been living according to others' expectations rather than your own truth, face it. Honesty is the beginning. Second, examine your values. Where did they come from? Did you choose them or inherit them? Do they actually serve your life, or are they slowly killing you? The values that make you depressed might be values that need to die. Third, ask what you want, not what you should want, not what others want for you. What do you actually want? What would you do if you were free? What would you create? This is the voice of your will to power. It's been silenced. Start listening. Fourth, stop sacrificing yourself. If you've been living for others' approval, stop. If you've been putting everyone else first until there's nothing left of you, stop. Nietzsche despised the morality of self-sacrifice because he saw it destroying people. Your life is yours. Live it. Fifth, create something. Nietzsche believed that creating was the highest human activity. Write, paint, build, compose, invent, start something. It doesn't have to be great. It has to be yours. The act of creation is the act of saying yes to life. Sixth, embrace your suffering. Don't run from it. Don't numb it. Ask what it's trying to teach you. Use it as fuel. Let it make you stronger, deeper, more authentic. What doesn't kill me makes me stronger, was Nietzsche's line. It's true, but only if you face your suffering rather than flee it. Seventh, choose eternal recurrence. Start living in a way that you would willingly live again. Make decisions that you can affirm, not regret. Create a life that is worth living eternally, even if it's just this moment, this day, this week. Before we finish, I want to share something Nietzsche wrote during his darkest period. His health was destroyed. He was completely alone. His work was ignored or ridiculed. He had every reason to despair. Instead, he wrote, "I want to learn more and more to see as beautiful what is necessary in things. Then I shall be one of those who makes things beautiful. Amor fati. Let that be my love henceforth. I do not want to wage war against what is ugly. I do not want to accuse. I do not even want to accuse those who accuse. Looking away shall be my only negation. And all in all, and on the whole, some day I wish to be only a yes-sayer." This was written by a man in constant pain, nearly blind, utterly alone, unknown, with no hope of worldly success. And he was teaching himself to say yes, to love fate, to make things beautiful. If he could do it from there, what's your excuse? Before you go, I need you to do something. If this video has shifted something in you, if it's given you a new way of seeing your darkness, share it. Someone in your life is depressed right now. Someone is drowning in meaninglessness and doesn't know why. Someone needs to hear that their depression might be the beginning of becoming who they really are. And subscribe to this channel. We're exploring the ideas that can actually transform suffering into strength, not just cope with it. Nietzsche spent his final 11 years in silence, his mind broken, cared for by his mother and then his sister, unable to write another word. The philosopher of strength ended in utter helplessness. Some see this as proof that his philosophy failed him. I see it differently. Nietzsche gave everything he had. He burned completely. He held nothing back. He lived and wrote with an intensity that most people can't imagine. And when the vessel broke, there was nothing left undone. His ideas survived. They transformed the 20th century. They're transforming you right now if you let them. Your depression is not meaningless. It's a signal, a rebellion, a demand from your deepest self that something must change. You can medicate the signal away. You can distract yourself from it. You can keep pretending everything is fine. Or you can listen. You can descend into the darkness and find what's there. You can face the meaninglessness and create your own meaning. You can kill the values that are killing you and forge new ones from your own fire. The choice is yours. It was always yours. Nietzsche wrote, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow." Find your why, not someone else's why, not society's why, yours. And then maybe you'll understand what Nietzsche understood, that depression is not the opposite of life. It's life demanding to be lived fully. The question is whether you'll answer the call. In the deepest darkness, Nietzsche found a way to say yes to existence. Can you? Will you? The overman is not a distant ideal. It's who you become when you stop running from yourself. Start now. The darkness is waiting to teach you, and on the other side is a life you can finally call your own.